got it to Motlop. Motlop off a step, and Curnow's got this trip. You know he has. Takes a man on, straightens up Charlie. There we are.
The intent to tackle, turnover, and then look corridor. Try and find the best option. They don't look as rushed as they have previously.
I'll give you a fascinating question. What happened in Charlie Curnow's exit meeting in 2025? Welcome to the Charlie Curnow. This is the season review. This is also a video where we're going to look at his season. There's also updates about his situation. I'm going to unpack absolutely everything. It seems that news with Charlie filters through thick and fast. And so we're going to get through absolutely everything. And by the end of this video, we can hopefully try and make some sense of the situation and remain calm and level-headed as much as possible. So look, this is the reality of Charlie Curnow's season. He played 18 matches, averaged a little under 12 disposals. He ranked elite for kicks and marks. Obviously, the goal accuracy was well below average for his own standard, but also AFL average. And then his tackling, which has always been really a highlight of the conversation around him. You know, for Charlie, it was a tough year. You know, if we look at really Charlie since he's come back from his major injuries, 64 goals followed by 81 goals. That was the back-to-back Coleman medal years. Last year, he kicked 57 goals from 21 matches. We know how his season ended there. It was cruelled with injury and, let's be honest, mismanagement. And then this year, from the 18 games, he kicked the 32 goals. And that's well below the standard that Charlie Curnow has set for himself. It's well below the standard that really we need from a player like him, who's not only in the leadership group, but also, you know, one of the highly paid players. And the reality with a salary cap competition is that if you are going to pay any player a high amount compared to the rest of the team, you know, there is an expectation of performance. So he had a down year. He had a bad year. If you look at why, okay, well, there's a few reasons here. Firstly, I think you must start this conversation with the preseason. We know he had an ankle reconstruction in September 2024. We then know he had a screw removed from his knee, which was from a previous surgery way back when. You know, we've spoken about this in the previous video about Charlie Curnow. So that is a reason why his off-season was hindered. That is a reason why his preparation was impacted. So what did it do for him? Well, what it meant was, I think we saw this year, he didn't really play the aerial game that we know is a big feature of him. We know that he's got dexterity. We know that he can play the ground ball game pretty well. You know, he's a pretty decent contested mark. But, you know, when Charlie's not confident in his body, when he's not moving clearly and cleanly with his body, he has to play in a different way and he can't play his natural game. And I think that's what we saw this year. Then there's the next layer to this equation, and that is the reality that the team sucked. It stunk. Something happened. We don't know whether it was on-field, off-field. What we know is that the performances were poor all year, or for the majority of the year, and the pressure mounted. You can mount a case that he started the season a little earlier than what he would have liked to. Harry Mackay was not playing early in the year. He took some time out and you know, maybe there was a situation where Charlie felt, you know, as a leader, he needed to step up and play. And so he came back early in the season after there was a lot of speculation that he would miss up to half of the season. And so I was pretty surprised to see him come back as early as he did. He just didn't seem to get going in the same way. He was always able to find a way to hit the scoreboard, but his trademark ability to take over games just wasn't there. And then there was a lot of pressure. 0-4 start. We've lost to Richmond up by 40 plus. You know, then we're in the hole and then we're chasing tail. He had some okay moments. He played relatively well in some certain games. He played okay against the Cats. But again, every time Carlton wins, it just seems like everyone plays well. And then there was the speculation. I think that's the next layer to the story. So this story about Charlie Curnow exploring his options, not being happy, it's just grown legs. I don't know how much of it sits in fact, and I don't know how much of it sits in fiction. But what we do know is that he has had 2 instances where he's knocked it on its head. So speculation, I've already done the video on the first bout of it. Charlie knocked that on its head after the Hawthorn game. Made it really clear in round 20 that he's staying. He was so emphatic in his quote. He sought out an AFL. Curnow, we know the story. Over the last week, we've seen more and more speculation. This week, I'm filming this on the 27th of August. This week, the Carlton exit interviews are happening. And Charlie leaving the club made another quote. So I'll play it here.
Last week.
Answer all the questions last week, so we're all good.
So good.
I answered them all up a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, all right, mate. Thanks.
And then after this, what I want to do is I want to take you back. I want to take you back to 2022. This was when he re-signed with the club and extended his contract a year before his contract was set to expire. So first, I'll read a quote. So this group started from day one together. We want to continue to grow together and ultimately we want to earn success together. We've had a lot of players re-sign for the long term and their mindset is exactly the same as mine. Let's do this the right way, off the back of working hard for each other and for everyone we represent at this football club. It means so much to me to represent our Guernsey. To wear that navy blue means we belong to something really special, that there is no football club like ours, no fan base as passionate as ours, and it is a privilege to represent Carlton each and every time I'm out there. So then there's a video that accompanied this quote.
Pretty pumped to be in a position where I can do something like this, and I've always come to Carlton Football Club thinking that it's a big good home for me, and I've got such great connections to a lot of the boys here. It's something I really admire. I really want to keep in my life and going forward. So I just can't wait for the next couple of years and the rest of this year. It's been a journey so far and a lot of ups and downs, but something I've really enjoyed. My whole family, my family as a whole, outside of the club, all my brothers and sisters, my mum and dad. They've got such a high involvement with this club and got to know the other families in the club, and it's just a great place to be. It feels great to have support of the fans, have the support of the club, and I really want to pay them back, and that's kind of why I've done this. I really want to show the club that I care about them, show the club that I care about the fans. I touched on my family before, and I'm doing a lot of this for them. Hopefully there's a lot more better times to come. I just can't wait to as I said, pay them back.
And then there's the confirmation from Nick Austin at the time that Charlie came to us a year before he needed to, said he wanted to play for this football club and was not interested in any other offers. That tells you everything you need to know about who he is. This week on Footy Classified, the media, it's become Charlie's word versus the media speculation. So I'll play this part here.
The biggest trade story of the year, potentially, Cal, could be Charlie Curnow, despite what he said now, not once, but twice publicly. What can you tell us tonight about the future of Carlton's spearhead?
Well, Charlie is still keen to pursue a move if the green light is there from Carlton. And we know his long-term contract, but if Carlton give it the green light to look at it and Sydney come to the table with some options, then I think there's going to be some further discussions to this. Now, at this point, there hasn't been that yet from Sydney to say this is what we'll offer, this is who is up for grabs. But for me, Charlie Curnow is definitely looking at different options.
So he's knocked it on the head twice, and I imagine he's just maybe publicly, he's slightly disgruntled. Like, senior players are allowed to be disgruntled. They're allowed to give feedback to the coaching administration if things are going wrong. That's their role. It's not just him giving feedback.
But I think it's about the environment in Melbourne, isn't it? It feels like it's not necessarily about Carlton. It's the environment in Melbourne, the pressure. I mean, playing for Carlton and performing subpar in a subpar team, I don't think it'd be a lot of fun with the supporter base they've got and how they really drill into each player. But if he's going to leave Melbourne and talk about Sydney, talk about Gold Coast, neither of those clubs really have what Carlton want.
Well, I believe there'd be 4 untouchables at Sydney. Let's have a look at them because they're obvious. Isaac Heaney, Errol Goulden, Nick Blakey and Chad Warner. Those are the 4 guys that just aren't going to be in the conversation. And if they are, then I don't think Sydney will be part of the Charlie Curnow chase, if that's what Carlton is going to demand. But then after that, you look at the next tier. It's the James Rowbottom types, the Tom Papleys, Logan McDonald. They also have pick 9, of course, that'll be part of discussions. Is that going to be enough for a player who does want to look at his options?
Michael Voss could not let Charlie Curnow go for one of those names you've just said.
It's the age-old question. If a player isn't that keen to be there, how well can he perform next year?
I think you can turn a player around. I really do think. I mean, unless he's like absolutely walks out and says, I'm definitely not playing, but it doesn't sound like
he's not going to do that.
No, he's said, I'd rather go somewhere else from an environment point of view, but that point of view for me is the players you're talking about there. If I was the coach, there's no way you'd let a player like that go for the quality of play you're talking about.
And you know what? I think, to be fair, that was a pretty reasonable breakdown. So what's the commonality here? Well, the player manager. So that's Robbie D'Orazio, who actually had an interesting link here in the behaviour that we're seeing with Christian Petrarca last year. There was speculation that he wanted out, he was fed up, he was looking elsewhere, and we sort of know how that played out. He ended up staying at the D's. Don't know if that story is going to grow again this year, but that's the other part to this equation. So Charlie emphatically says, I'm good, I'm staying, we're good, I've answered the questions, I've made it really clear, I'm staying. The media seem to believe that there is still this lingering want and desire to leave Carlton, and if Carlton give the green light, then Charlie would be open to it. So I'm conflicted. So let's look at it from both angles. So we've already covered the angle where Charlie might want out. And, you know, fans are passionate. A lot of fans are speaking with a lot of emotion. And, you know, if he wants out, then fuck him and this and that. If you want in, you're in. If you don't, you don't. But we haven't really spoken about the reality of what if Charlie's telling the truth? What if he genuinely wants to be here? What if he's unhappy with what's happened in the season? What if he's unhappy that De Koning's leaving, Sauce is leaving, because of something that's happened internally at the club? Maybe he doesn't like the direction that the club's going, and maybe there's legs to the story of him maybe wanting to seek out. But we've covered that, and I find the conversation leans into that more than, hang on a minute, what if Charlie wants to stay all along, and he's had 2 instances of direct quotes where he says he wants to stay? Don't we want to support him? On the one hand, there's that. If he is to leave after making it really clear that he's staying, then that's going to create more and more emotion and more tension with the supporter base. So I just want to be careful with this. That's how I'm thinking about it. So everyone wants what the greener grass on the other side. I'm sure a lot of players would like to be playing for Geelong. I'm sure a lot of players would like to be playing in consistent prelims. I'm sure a lot of players would like to get out of the Melbourne bubble. The reality is Charlie's been so good to Carlton people and to the club. This is the first time I can remember in his career where I sense or I read and hear about unhappiness. And I mean, if you look at this year and last year, so this year is injury interrupted, form interrupted, club interrupted. This has been a terrible year for the Carlton Football Club. I would hope a lot of them are really pissed off with the club for the way it's managed itself. I would hope that there is a bit of unrest. I mean, if there's not unrest in the playing group and with individuals on the inside who actually perform and play the game, then I think I'd be more worried. So the fact that Charlie's a leader is, you know, maybe speaking up and speaking out. I mean, I want that. By the same token, he has a responsibility. He signed a long-term deal. He was backed in. The club's been great to him and supportive of him. So there is the loyalty part. There is the other part of, you got to remember these guys, there is no real loyalty. They're loyal to themselves. And to be honest, they only need to be loyal to themselves and their families, because we on this side of the fence, they don't know who we are, and what we think about what they should or shouldn't do doesn't really matter. So there's the romance side of footy and the fan. And, you know, I just think for Charlie, and I'll play this other part here from Kane Corns, which I actually resonate really well with.
Know that Charlie is looking at a life outside of Melbourne and outside of Victoria.
Do you know what annoys me, and it's really starting to annoy me, is these players that sign long-term contracts, end of 2029. He was clearly comfortable in Melbourne when he signed that long-term deal, and then a couple of years into it, I've had enough.
What about clubs who make promises to players?
After round 20, he said he was...
And I think there's an important part here as well. You know, when you're building a culture, I mean, you build around a certain amount of players. I think Charlie's acknowledged that he's one of the guys that they build around from day one. There's that responsibility of seeing it out. This is the first year I've really needed to step back and look at it from okay, don't get so angry about these random strangers who you don't even know, don't even care about you. The club is bigger than the individual. And at the end of the day, if there are guys that do not want to be here for whatever reason or do not want to do things the club's way, then they do have to leave. So I am empathetic to that. I think it would be a tragedy if we lost Charlie Curnow because of his skill set. I believe there's a simpler solution here, and that is have the right communication between club and Charlie or coach and Charlie or whatever the breakdown is and Charlie. Get on the same page, get fit, cut the shit, and get back on track. I think it would be easier to turn this team around and easier to turn the Charlie Curnow situation into a positive with Charlie Curnow than without Charlie Curnow. So that's just my best guess. I don't know what is actually happening. I do feel and sense that something rotten has happened on the inside. Could be wrong, but we saw the disconnection from the playing group. It appeared. And it only needed to appear for 10 to 15 to 20 minutes in a game for us to know that something's just off. So Charlie's a leader. Charlie's got a responsibility. And I mean, in his own words, forget about what I've said. In his own words, he sought out to re-sign and extend his contract before it was due only a few seasons ago. He's had 2/3 of a pretty good year last year, and then he was struck down with injury. And he also showcased his ability to play through injury, which I think gets forgotten about. You know, in the heat of the battle, in the moment of performances, he was able to play through injury last year, and he also played through soreness and injury this year. He was not right to play with full effect this year, and he still played. So I do think that's important. You should be playing as much as you can. You've got to play through injuries. Everyone saw. I just think let's just get him fit and healthy. Let's just get his mindset right. Let's just get him aligned with the Carlton Football Club again, and we go again. It's in my maybe I'm just naive, but just get back on the same page. Be pissed off. Everyone should be pissed off. I don't believe he's a sook. I believe he genuinely loves the place. I believe he has love for the place. I do also believe there's an element of he needs to, grow up, and this is part of the challenges of becoming a senior figure at the football club. And, he's a pretty laid-back dude. He doesn't sweat the small stuff, from what I can tell. Doesn't get too caught up in the footy bubble, which I think is a positive. So I'd be really sad if he left, just from the standpoint of, okay, that's a really good player that we're letting go after a year where he was clearly crippled with injury, and the club was really crippled by its own doing. So I think Charlie's part of the solution, not the problem. But so that's been his 2025, and that's also been the latest updates around him. What do you think about Charlie's 2025? How would you grade it, considering all the information that we have available about what happened? And what do you make of this constant Charlie's word versus the media speculation? I just think it's such a fascinating story, because if he does stay at the end of the day, because the way that the speculation has been put out to us, it's that Charlie would be interested, but the club would never do it, and Sydney would never give up any of these 4 players. Therefore, Carlton wouldn't do it. So it's almost like everyone's covering their own bases, but it's a popular story. So what does that tell you about the media landscape? And what do you think? Chat to you soon. Go Blues.